We are going to begin the funeral service. There's extra seating in the smaller chapel across the way there. You can have a chair and watch the service on a screen. So if you don't want to sit, we have a overwhelming support for the family today, so that's very nice. But there is seating on the other chapel. There look like there's a couple chairs up in front here. But yeah, if you're okay standing, that's fine as well. We're going to begin the services from Mr. Ronald Howard Merel. If you have a cell phone, I'd ask you kindly to place it in the silent mode or turn it completely off at this time. I'd also like to welcome everybody via live stream. On behalf of the family, thank you for attending. And services are going to be conducted by Rabbi Adam Sholem. He's going to start with the ancient tradition of cutting of the kriya.
Supported by our family and friends who help hold us together, but it's very appropriate to mark this morning as a very public ritual. And so I'll ask you to repeat after me words from the Hebrew Bible and the book of Proverbs that speak of the memory of the person who has blessed our lives. First we'll say Hebrew and then Zeher, Sadiq, Ibrahim. The memory of a good person is a blessing. Tear the ribbons, and we're put one part forward and one part back. Okay. Does it sound better? All right. I can be even louder if needed. Our lives are not defined by our problems. Each of us has problems, some that we make and some that are beyond our control. But we are not defined by those problems. Our lives are actually defined by how we face our problems. Do we complain or do we find joy? Do we focus on what we cannot do, or do we use our abilities, despite our limitations, to help other people? Do we demand care from others, or do we offer love? If you want a model to face challenges with joy and generosity and love, you had one in Ronnie Merel. Now, we have a choice today. Some might focus on the negatives, the ongoing health issues with his leg, of course, the terrible stroke 13 years ago that put him in a chair and diminished him, his death at age 77, which these days feels too soon. Or we could do what Ronnie would have done, choose how Ronnie would have chosen, reflect the choices that he made in his life, focus on love and generosity and talent and joy. Ronnie was always a positive person, and that is how we remember him today, and how we want to remember him tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow. Death is part of life for all of us in our own time. How we use the time that we do have is much more important. This is contained in a wisdom passage of Jewish tradition that appears in the book of Ecclesiastes in chapter 3. I'll read this selection first in Hebrew and then in English. לכל זמן ועת לכל חפץ תחת השמיים. עת ללדת ועת למות, עת לטעת ועת לעקור נטוע, עת להרוג ועת לרפוא, עת לפרוץ ועת לבנות, עת לבכות ועת לשחוק, עת צפוד ועת רקוד, עת להשליך אבנים ועת כנוס אבנים, עת לחבוק ועת לרחוק מחבק, עת לבקש ועת לאבד, עת לשמור ועת להשליך, עת לקרוע ועת לתפור, עת לחשות ועת לדבר, עת לאהוב ועת לשנוא, עת מלחמה ועת שלום. To everything there is a season, and a time to every purpose under the sky. A time to be born, and a time to die. A time to plant, and a time to pluck up that which is planted. A time to kill, and a time to heal. A time to break down, and a time to build up. A time to weep, and a time to laugh. A time to mourn, and a time to dance. A time to cast away stones, and a time to gather stones together. A time to embrace, and a time to cease embracing. A time to seek, and a time to lose. A time to keep, and a time to let go. A time to tear, and a time to sow. A time to keep silent, and a time to speak. A time to love, and a time to hate. A time of war, and especially for those who suffer, a time of peace. Ronnie had many loves in his life. Of course, it begins with his family, his parents, Willie and Jerry, and his in-laws, Max and Hannah, his brothers, Ricky and Robbie, and their partners and children, his wife, Hetty, his own children, Jonathan and Jamie, his grandchildren, Taylor and Brody, and Blake and Dylan, and many, many more. He loved the White Sox. He loved fast food. And he loved his many, many close friends. After all, close friends are the family you choose for yourself. And so many of you here were part of that circle. And he loved golf. Several members of his family and close friends will be speaking in a little bit about Ronnie as they experienced him. So my task today is to give you the basic outline of his life, to sketch the lines so they can fill in the color. So let's consider Ronnie's life like a par 5. Each golf stroke with its own challenges and successes. First, the drive. Set the ball on the tee and get going. You can set the tone for the entire process of the hole. Ronnie's tee shot. He was born in May of 1948, just a couple of weeks before the modern state of Israel. He was born to Jerry and Willie in Chicago, where they had also been born. Ronnie was the oldest of 3 sons, and we'll hear from his 2 younger brothers in a bit. The family lived in Peterson Park on Monticello. Willie worked for United Sheet Metal Company, installing heating and air conditioning machines and vents in commercial buildings with his brother Julius, and for a few summers with his sons, who, to be honest, were not big fans of that work. The family was Jewish, but not especially religious. The boys all had bar mitzvahs through A.G. Beth Israel and celebrated important Jewish holidays at home. In later years, Ronnie would send his own children to B'nai Torah, and there was a special family trip to Israel in the summer of 1990 to celebrate more B'nai mitzvahs. That was very meaningful. Ronnie and Hetty's home was generally a Hanukkah and Passover and high holidays house. Not super traditional, but still deeply Jewish. That Jewish tone and that deep family connection, that was set in those early years and lasted Ronnie's entire life. As a child, Ronnie was active in the Deborah Boys Club on Kimball, but he was just as active on the streets and in the parks of his neighborhood, playing all kinds of games. Line ball and pinners and fastball and, of course, basketball. Friday nights at the lighted schoolhouse for dodgeball was also a regular event. Ronnie graduated from Von Steuben High School in 1966 and went on to the University of Illinois. And the most important asset he took with him to college from those opening tee moments were the deep friendships he made. People like Spreck and Chucky and Simo and Muzzy, and many more. And we'll also hear later from a couple of his close friends. Age 18, after the tee shot, we are now on the fairway, where the hole can go right or go very, very wrong. Ronnie enrolled at the University of Illinois in Champaign, where he was a member of the Jewish fraternity Tau Epsilon Pi. He majored in liberal arts and would go on to Chicago Kent School of Law to become a lawyer specializing in criminal defense. Age 18, the fairway, is also when Ronnie first met Hetty at the Pink Fink Disco Club. She was only 16, and he was 18, but he was immediately and forever madly in love with her. She told me that at first she thought the convertible he was driving was a bit more interesting than he was. But this became a lifetime of a loving partnership. They became engaged 3 years later and were married on June 20th, 1971 at the Blackstone Hotel in a beautiful celebration. Hetty and Ronnie built a life together. Initially, Hetty worked to support the family while Ronnie was in law school. And she said that as a partner and as a parent and as a friend, Ronnie always put other people first, never saying no, always wanting everyone to be happy. Out of law school, Ronnie worked as a public defender for a few years and then switched to commodity training for a while, earning enough for them to move out of the city and build a home in the untamed wilderness called Libertyville. And they lived there for a few years before building a home in Highland Park. Ronnie would return to criminal defense work, helping everyone from serious criminal accusations to parking and speeding tickets from his Skokie office. He often did not charge for these legal favors for family and friends because he was always generous and kind and helpful. Probably the reason he got into criminal defense in the first place. He was a giver and a helper. So our second shot, our shot from the fairway, has landed at the edge of the green, where the game gets even closer. Hetty and Ronnie started their family, and we'll hear from their children, Jamie and Jonathan, in a few minutes. They shared with me that Ronnie always put them first, before work or anything else, always present for their activities, even leading a Cub Scout troop, which included letting Jamie into the Cub Scouts as the only girl in the troop. Those lifetime friendships that we saw when we started our journey continued through his whole life and grew and expanded through family friendships and meeting new people too. The family told me that Ronnie was like the mayor. It could take the family forever just to get through a restaurant to their table because it seemed like everyone knew him along the way. And everyone liked him. Even when he experienced his major stroke, the people he cared about were there for him and his family. I was told that the waiting room that night in the emergency department was full of dozens of people, all there because they cared about Ronnie, because he cared about them. Ronnie did have his own enthusiasms. He was a trivia buff. He loved watching sports, with a bit of gambling, though without great success. And Sunday golf with his friends was a source of joy and connection. After all, for Ronnie, playing poker was about the social time, the schmoozing, not the results. Even later in life, he never had to look up a phone number. He just knew it. That was his way of connecting. He was very caring for his own parents for many years. A wonderful role model for his own children, as it turns out. And so we take our shot, we chip our way near the hole, all set up for a tap-in birdie, to take it home and to be happy. Yet the unexpected may intervene. A wind gust comes out of nowhere and messes up our plans. Plans for retirement and travel, plans for joy, quality time with grandchildren, the golden years. That stroke in 2012 deprived Ronnie's grandchildren of the full strength of his personality and his love, but he was still their papa, always with a smile on his face, fully present for their visits and never complaining, whatever might have been going on with him. The party was always happening around his chair, just like that putt waiting at the edge of the hole. What do we call this golf experience, Ronnie's life? It sounds wrong to say it was below par. That's good in golf, to be under par, but it's not good for people. Ronnie was way, way above par in so many ways that count. That tap in at the end, when it's a sure thing, you can just say, no doubt, just pick it up. Was Ronnie a good person? A loving person who was loved by others? No doubt. Pick it up. A person way, way above par. All the people here today and watching beyond this space, they are a testament to how wonderful he was. In Yiddish, there's a word for this. It's a mensch. Mensch means a person. It could mean an ordinary person, but a mensch really means the best kind of person one can be. And the family said if you had a dictionary with pictures and looked it up, you might find his next to that word. Ronnie had a long road in his life, but it might as well have been a hole in one. He was that special. 1 in a million. And now we'll hear from his family and a few close friends. First, his daughter Jamie and his son Jonathan, followed by his brothers Ricky and Robbie, his 4 grandchildren, Taylor, Brody, Blake, and Dylan. And then one of his many best friends, Chucky, wrote a message to be read by his daughter Faith. And finally, another close friend, Scott Schumer. And so, Jamie. Oh.
13 and a half years ago, I thought I'd be writing this, but what a ride it's been, and here we are now. Dad, you are a true fighter till the very end. You fought until your last breath, and I guess you just couldn't take the pain and suffering anymore. Your stubbornness and high tolerance was upheld until your very last breath. More and more medicine had to be given to you to pass peacefully with all of us by your side. Growing up, you were the ideal father. Even though you and Mom almost decided to have me aborted because of all the drugs you did, I think I made it out okay. True story.
She was a mistake.
Yep. You gave me the absolute best childhood Jonathan and I can ask for. From visits to see Grandma and Papa at Palmer, to countless trips to Disney with the Auslanders, to swimming parties at the Schumers, to family gatherings at the Safros and at the Schneiders, and to Super Bowls at the Spreckmans, we had it all. The best friends, the best family, and the best memories. Those were the good old days. The good old days, especially for you, Dad, as you were pretty healthy until the cancer in your leg came. From multiple surgeries, many rounds of radiation, broken bones, walking with the cane, and doctor's appointments, you dealt with so much. I know some days you wanted to give up, but you kept going for all of us. Your career as a criminal lawyer showed how much you cared for just about everyone. Even though I'd get scared when we'd get daily collect calls from your clients in jail, everyone knew you were the best. The Ronnie that most people knew was always the life of the party. Your loud presence, your infectious energy, and your personality were second to none. Your love for your friends and family, the White Sox, cooking shows, peanut M&Ms, Pekin House egg rolls, golf, Stoli vodka, and fast food showed in every ounce of you. I wish my boys had been able to see that side of you, to see how special of a person you really were. Brett and I will make sure to keep all those memories of you with us and our kids forever. Unfortunately, your health took a toll when you had a stroke, when Brody was only 3 and Dylan was only 6 months old. They still always loved coming to your house to play with trains and cars on the floor as you watched from your infamous chair. This past year has been filled with ups and downs with your health, and I'm glad you are finally at peace. I'm going to miss the daily phone calls asking for McDonald's, Panda Express, or Superdog, minus my DoorDash bill. I'm going to miss your contagious smile. I'm going to miss your handsome face, and I'm going to miss your sweet voice. I'm going to miss you forever, Dad, and you'll be in my heart forever.
All right, let's see how well this Xanax works. I'm not sure how to do this other than sharing memories of my dad and discussing how much he meant, not just to me, but to all of you and so many people in this world. This is not a funeral. This is truly a celebration of my dad's life, and he would have it no other way. Nobody loves celebrating more than him. Words don't really do it any justice when it comes to describing Ronnie Merel. In the past few days, I can't count how many messages I've received which referred to him as a legend, and he truly was just that. What happens when somebody dies? Nobody ever really knows, of course, but one of my dad's favorite movies was Defending Your Life. We watched it together so many times and both agreed that maybe that is what happens when you die. If that's the case, Ronnie's currently in Judgment City and is definitely eating unlimited food without feeling full or gaining any weight. I can picture the waiter now bringing him 17 super dogs and, of course, soggy fries. He may be the only human on earth who loves soggy fries, besides Stacy. Since we're on the topic of defending your life in Judgment City, let's go back and look at some of the days and stories that created the legend of Ronnie Merel. Let's start off with young Ronnie, the first of 3 sons of Willie and Jerry Merel. My dad was super attached to his parents as a young child, and when I say that, I mean mashugana attached. I remember my grandma Jerry telling me stories about my dad as a young boy. Every evening, he would look out the front window of the house, waiting for his dad to come home from work, saying, "Where's my Willie boy? Where's my Willie boy?" Not normal. If you think that's crazy, when he was at overnight camp in Eagle River, and this is not a made-up story, he would read newspapers and check the obituaries to make sure his parents weren't dead. He was worried that nobody would tell him if his parents died while he was away at camp. Yeah, that's some fucked up shit. You got it. After growing up in Peterson Park, he went off to college in Champaign. He met my mom when she was 16 and he was 18. They immediately fell in love, and the rest is history. I've heard legendary stories about my dad at U of I and the Tep House, and the tales sounded like the movie Animal House. Ronnie and his friends partied as hard as anyone I know, possibly even more than me. He and his crew definitely lived life to the fullest. The legend continued after becoming a husband, father, and criminal defense attorney. He was the inspiration for me becoming a lawyer, and I felt his impact on the profession from day one. I can't count how many times I was approached in court over the years and asked if I was related to Ronnie Merel. Judges, prosecutors, clerks, and lawyers alike would always tell me how much they loved my dad. His own clients, not always model citizens, would call the house collect from jail, and I would sometimes answer the phone. Before I gave the phone to my dad, they would often say, "Ronnie Merel's the best lawyer I know." He was adored by everyone, even Chicago's most wanted. As I became a teenager, my dad's legal practice saw a spike in clients because he began defending me and all of my friends. Speeding tickets, fender benders, paraphernalia, you name it, my dad was always in court with me and my friends and always got us out of trouble. His words of wisdom: say as little as possible, deny, 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 and please keep your contraband in the trunk. He was not just a dad to me, but to all of my friends. He loved my friends like his own children, and I know they loved him just as much. A few more memories of my dad that I'm going to rattle off. Our bar and bat mitzvah trip to Israel with the entire family and tons of friends, many who are in this room. Still today remains the trip of a lifetime. VVD. Becoming Papa, his 4 grandchildren were his greatest joys, and he cherished every moment with Taylor, Blake, Brody, and Dylan. Going to every White Sox opening day together. I remember the excitement I felt when he'd pick me up early from school so we could head to Comiskey Park. We would always go to one of his Southside hot dog joints before the game and then to Mario's Italian Ice after the game. His love of sports, in particular gambling on sports, which he was not good at, and neither am I. He and his friends were so ahead of the times. They did fantasy football before anyone even knew what fantasy football was. In fact, they may have invented it. I'm talking 40, 45 years ago. They kept all the scoring by hand. Ronnie loved football Saturdays and Sundays. So many football weekends spent with his friends who are extended family. I can guarantee he and Spreck are already discussing their locks of the week and will be jumping up and down on the couch watching games this weekend, just as they always did. Super Bowl parties. Every year for the Super Bowl party, my dad would run around the week before buying up hats for each team that was in the Super Bowl. This was way before Amazon, so in order to get hats for teams like the Cowboys or the 49ers or the Bills or whoever was playing, he would run around to sports stores all over the Chicago area just so he could pass out the hats to everybody at the party. This was my dad in a nutshell, always making sure the party was the best party ever, and he was the life of the party. Food, as everyone seems to be touching on, Ronnie loved food, as in not healthy food. Superdog, McDonald's, and countless random hot dog joints throughout Chicago, many of which a normal person would be terrified to enter. And when he would take me to these random places for a hot dog and greasy, soggy fries, the guys working at these places always knew him by name. Nobody loved Pekin House egg rolls more than my dad. He would go to the restaurant, eat a few egg rolls there, then bring 50 home, many of which he would drop off at friends' houses just for fun. And there was never a Merel family get-together without Pekin House egg rolls. Perhaps Ronnie was onto something eating all of this crappy food. I believe the American Medical Journal will be publishing an article called Ronnie Merel, the Medical Miracle, How to Defy All Odds in Science and Survive 13 Years After a Major Stroke, and the treatment plan, no rehab, minimal movement, no exercise, watching 18 hours per day from a chair, sleeping in a chair, and a steady diet of Superdog, McDonald's, and Panda Express. These were the Ronnie Merel keys to longevity. He loved his Corvettes as well. I'm not sure how many he had when I was a young child, but Don Ron, as many called him, was always seen driving his Corvette with the T-tops off so he can get as much sun as possible. Speaking of sun, I'm not sure anyone loved the sun more than my dad. He would be black after sitting in the sun for 10 minutes, but that didn't stop him from spending many afternoon hours soaking up as many rays as possible in the backyard, and of course, never using sunscreen. He has passed on his sun obsession to his own son and granddaughters. These are the stories that made up the legend of Ronnie Merel, an amazing son, brother, father, husband, grandfather, uncle, lawyer, and friend. Since I started with the movie theme, I will end with it. My dad's favorite movie of all time was It's a Wonderful Life. He would make me watch it with him over the holidays. And he would always cry during the famous scene at the end. I never really understood it then, but I get it now, Dad. You really did live a wonderful life. I love you.
First of all, I want to thank everyone for coming here today to celebrate Ronnie's life, not to mourn it. My older brother, Ronnie, where do I begin? We grew up extremely close. We shared the same bedroom through high school. Since we were only a couple years apart, Ronnie allowed me to share his close friends, like Spreck and Chucky and others, and spend time with him and his friends. He was my biggest fan. When I was playing basketball in high school, he went to most of my games. Mostly watched me sit on the bench. We went to overnight camp together. From the time I was 6, Ronnie was 8. My parents loved their summers. I was pretty young at that time. He hated every minute of camp, and I loved every minute. And you stole my story, because this is true. I mean, he refused to go to camp unless my parents agreed to send him the Sun-Times every single day in camp so that he can read the obituaries and make sure they didn't die. We even roomed together at the Tep House during my freshman year. Who does that? That's how close we were. And let me tell you, it wasn't easy. Every single night, Ronnie was on the phone with Hetty, asking, what did she wear that day? How much makeup did she have? What was she wearing? Every single night. It drove me frickin' crazy. Am I right? After college, we continued to stay close. We both got married, had kids, spent a lot of time together as families. Ronnie was especially close to our mom and dad. He would always run and do for them, even though he was having a hard physical time with his bad leg. He never complained. And when it came to his friends, there was no one that was a better friend than Ronnie. He was always there for his friends, no matter what. Speeding tickets, no problem. Even though that's how he made his living, never charged any of his friends a dime. Dinners or drinks? How many times did Ronnie pick up the check for dinners or drinks? That's just who he was. He had the biggest heart in the world. Not one jealous bone in his body. Lastly, his family. Ronnie adored and loved our parents and our grandparents beyond words. Our mom's parents lived with us from the time we were in grammar school. Ronnie would drive my grandmother to and from Goldblatt's a few times a week and never complain. He would run errands all the time for everyone, even though his leg kept getting progressively worse. His life revolved around Hetty and Jonathan and Jamie and the kids. All he ever wanted in life was for them to be happy and well. His wealth in life was his family and the love and joy he brought to everyone in his life. These past 13 years was hard on everyone after his stroke, especially Hetty. Hetty, I can't tell you how much I and the rest of our family love and respect you for the devotion and commitment you had to make Ronnie's life as best as possible during this long and difficult period. He loved you with all of his heart. Ronnie, you had the biggest and most loving heart in the world. You definitely inherited Dad's soul. We will all have a permanent void in our lives without you. I hope and pray you are with Mom and Dad and at peace. I will love you forever.
I actually made some notes. His family made me do. Winging it hasn't worked real well. Last few speeches. It's kind of rambling, but
Not unusual.
not unusual. And I was in Skokie the other day getting a shot in my back when Hetty called. And I had happened to go see my folks. Haven't seen them in I don't know, a year or so. And when I got there, I got the text from Hetty. He was in the hospital. So I didn't get a chance to go up to see him, but I know Mom knew what was going on and sent me to go see him at the hospital. Happened kind of quick. Again, with the leg and the stroke and everything he's dealt with. Like a champion. Never complained, always smiled, doesn't need anything. And he endured all this for a long time to still be here. Most of the stuff I really can't read. And won't make it through. You know, stories we'll tell with family and Shiva and everything. He's the bravest guy I ever met. heroes, Superman and all that, those aren't heroes. My dad was somebody you really aspired to be, and my brothers, both of them. If you could get pieces of them as you grow up and be something like them, then you made it. He was stubborn. He was generous to a fault. He was funny as hell, loud as hell, terrible temper. You got in a beef with him, you had to calm him down. He was turning bright red. You had to calm him down. Him and my mom would just get into it and wouldn't speak for 2 weeks, and then it never happened again. But lost a good friend a couple years ago, too. And as I was talking with Ronnie the night he passed, my neighbor was texting me to try and take my mind off it. And he was asking me a question, and I couldn't remember the answer. And I was just sitting on the couch with Gus, my dog, and I looked up and I said, B, what the hell was that? And immediately I had the answer. And I knew he's up there with Mom and Dad and his friends, our family. Whatever you believe of what happens when you go, that's what I think. That he's looking down, he's in a better spot because it was a real shitty few years. He didn't deserve any of this. You all came to see him. He doesn't have there's no enemies that you could even think of for what he did for people. And that smile, never took a bad picture. Same smile as my dad. Just miss him terribly. No, he's in a better spot right now because the last few days were pretty bad. But I'll miss you forever. Love you, Ron.
There are few people who don't recognize the last name Merel. Every time I introduce myself, I'm reminded of how lucky I am to come from such an incredible grandfather. Papa, everyone loved you. You were the definition of a good person and will forever be a leader for our family to look up to. I can confidently say that I have the best dad, and I know so many of his traits came from you. There are countless things you have taught me, but most importantly, you taught me to never give up. I know all my determination in life comes from you, and I will forever be grateful for that. Oh, Papa, how much I love you.
Papa, my mom always told me how you were that one person everyone wanted to be around. Even if I experienced a different Papa than all you have, he was always the greatest man, and the result of being with him was always amazing, no matter what version it was. I know my mom carries that same quality of him every day, being that one person everyone wants to be around, just like Papa was. And now I've made it my goal to continue to be that person that everyone wants to be around, just like my mom is, and just like how my Papa was. Papa, thank you for showing me what it means to be present in the moment and to keep a positive mindset no matter what happens to you in life and no matter where it takes you.
Papa, with everything you've been through, you always kept a smile on your face. I'm so glad we got to share our love for football and watching sports. That is something that will continue to remind me of you for the rest of my life.
Papa, you are an amazing grandfather and an incredible person. You will be a part of us forever. We love you.
We'd like to share a few words from our dad, who's sorry he can't be here in person today as he's been a bit under the weather, but he's watching virtually.
Ronnie was my best friend, the kind of friend you celebrate with, laugh with, cry with, and really like to get in trouble with. Over the past 72 years, we did all of it. As my oldest friend, Ronnie and I literally shared every major milestone together, starting all the way back in kindergarten. We lit candles at each other's bar mitzvahs. I remember the night that he picked up Hetty at the Pink Fink. I stood up at their wedding and he stood up at mine. We raised our kids together. Playgroups and Wednesday dinners were always loud, full of stories, and full of fun. Naturally, when Lee was born, he became his godfather, and I called him Don Ron, and he loved that. And then came the joys of celebrating the next generations together. Our kids' mitzvahs, college days in Madison, their weddings. And this photo of the three of us 12 years ago at Lee's wedding is one that I keep close to me and cherish. We welcomed our grandchildren and even watched them head off to overnight camp together. I am so grateful that we were able to share so much of our lives. But I guess that's part of the curse, or what's really the gift, of the Schneiders and the Merels. We just can't get rid of each other. Not that anyone ever tried. But like magnets, we always found our strong bond pulling us back together. Ronnie had the biggest heart of anyone I've ever known, and even his quirks made him more endearing. He was a terrible card player, but the biggest card chaser, and he would never drop out no matter how bad the hand. He was one of the worst drivers, and I never understood how he managed to drive with both feet. When we played 3-on-3 basketball, Sprick and I always picked Ronnie first, not because he was good at basketball, but because we loved him. When it came to sports, Ronnie was always an anomaly. He bowled lefty and he threw righty. And in high school, he was Mr. GQ and voted the best dressed in the class. He loved absolutely everything about the number 20, thanks to his anniversary with Hetty and John and Jamie's birthdays. What it really comes down to is that everything was more fun when Ronnie was around. In our late teens, we begged Jerry not to send him back to overnight camp because we wanted him to be with us. But off he went because Jerry wanted to be on the boat. And in college, well, I can't even begin to tell you the crazy things that we all did on that boat. These past years since the stroke, I've tried my best to help you, Ronnie. We've shared so many good talks and memories. We were always there for each other, and I would have done anything for you. Though eating with Ronnie wasn't necessarily a fun experience because he was so loud. One of my favorite philosophies has always been that every day is a good day, but Sundays are better. And I know that 2 days ago was a better day for Ronnie. I'm gonna miss you, my friend. You were truly one of a kind. When my father was sick, he used to say, just say goodnight, never goodbye, because goodnight means that you're still fighting things, and goodbye was more forever. So, Hetty, JB, Jamie, Ricky, Robbie, on behalf of the Schneiders, we hope you find peace at being able to say goodbye and comfort in the many, many memories of Ronnie's incredible life. With love, Chucky.
For those who don't know me, my name is Scott Schumer, or Willie, a long-time nickname. First of all, I'd like to thank all of you for coming to honor Ronnie. My condolences to Hetty, Jonathan, Jamie, Ricky, and Robbie. Also to the extended Merel family, which are too numerous to single out. Ronnie was one of my best friends. I met him 45 years ago through mutual friends. We hit it off immediately. We had so much in common: gambling, frequent use of alcohol, and so much more. Back in the day, Ronnie and I used to have way too many Stolies and Crown Royals. He was my main drinking partner, which meant I spent an inordinate time with him. In the later years, he joined the Chicago Mercantile Exchange, where I was a member, so I saw him even more. Needless to say, I knew him well. He had a heart of gold. There wasn't anything he wouldn't do to help a friend. Also, he was the life of the party, encouraging everybody around him to join in. When he met a new person, he took them in as a friend and immediately launched into what I call Ronnie's Jewish geography, not stopping until he found a common contact between them. There wasn't a check that Ronnie didn't grab, and he was famous for getting up during a meal, saying he was going to the bathroom and seeking out the waitress to give him his credit card. I could go on and on about how generous he was. He took care of everybody who did anything for him. He never complained about anything, even when it came to his physical condition. I remember one time he came out to Arizona to visit, and we played golf. This was right after he had started to have issues with his leg. The course was cart pass only, and he toughed it out, never saying how much he was hurting. He was one strong individual. Ronnie had a severe case of the Spilkies all his life. He could never sit still, always on the move, going from courthouse to courthouse. He was a speed demon on the road, never slowing down. When he turned 40, he went to St. Thomas with his family, and my wife and I surprised him on his birthday. We made plans to take an inter-island ferry to St. John, and when we arrived, we took a taxi to Trunk Bay, which is one of the most beautiful white sand beaches in the world. We got there, set up blankets, and etc. And after 5 minutes later, Ronnie says, "We're out of here." Back to the taxi we go, back to town to the nearest watering hole. We couldn't say no. It was his big birthday. Needless to say, this was one hell of a guy, and I miss him dearly. I have so many memories of him. He didn't deserve what happened to him the last 15 years. It was a tragedy. This is a person that gave so much to life. Again, my condolences to the entire Merel family. We lost a great one. Love you, Ron.
Today we live in a new world. It's a world without Ronald Howard Merel in it as a living presence. He continues in our memories. He continues on the positive impact he had on the world and on the people he cared about. One of the tragedies is we feel there's no way to make new memories with him because he's gone. And yet, I hope through today's service, you'll learn something new about who he was, about how he impacted the world for the better, the kind of person and the model that he set, and the love that he engendered in his family and friends. We remember him and we love him, and we love the people that he loved. If you're comfortable standing, could I ask you to stand for just a moment? In response to each line of this poem, I invite you to say the words together, "We remember him." In the rising of the sun and in its going down, together, we remember him. In the blowing of the wind and in the chill of winter, we remember him. In the opening of the buds and in the warmth of summer, we remember him. In the rustling of leaves and the beauty of autumn, we remember him. In the beginning of the year and when it ends, we remember him. When we are weary and in need of strength, we remember him. When we are lost and sick at heart, we remember him. When we have joys we yearn to share, we remember him. So long as we live, Ronnie too shall live, for he is now a part of us as, together, we remember him. Let us pause for a moment of silent tribute in memory and in love of Ronnie. As this service began with words from the Hebrew Bible and the book of Proverbs, so does it end. Zecher tzadik livracha. The memory of a good person is truly a blessing.
This does conclude the service here at the chapel. The family will be receiving condolence calls today from 4 p.m. until 8 p.m. at the Bryn Mawr Country Club. That's 6600 North Crawford Avenue in Lincolnwood. That's from 4 until 8. That information is on our folders as well as on the website. So if you need to look up the name or the address, you can look there. Interment will take place at West Lawn Cemetery, 7801 West Montrose Avenue in Norwich. The procession will be forming in the parking lot if you're going. Please keep in mind a few safety features while in the procession. Keep your bright headlights on at all times. Put your emergency blinkers on. Attach the orange funeral sticker to the passenger portion of your front windshield. And we'll also attach a flag to the roof of your car. And please stay as close as safety permits to the car in front of you. I would ask also, if you are not going in procession, if you could go ahead and leave the chapel so we can get the people who are going lined up, because there's such a overwhelming support for the family today, so that would be much appreciated. The following people have been selected to serve as pallbearers, the family members. When I call your name, if you please come forward. Jason Merel, Andrew Merel, Brian Merel, Adam Merel, Keith Merrill, Michael Lev, and Brian Schwartz. At this time, I would ask that everyone please rise as the family and the rabbi are escorted from the chapel.
this way.